It's another episode of NRG Insights today. But at the moment, we're going through a series of podcasts with external people who help mortgage brokers kind of get their word out there and that kind of thing. We've got a lot of marketing people on, and today I thought it'd be really useful. Actually, I've got Dominic Hiatt from NewsPage joining me. So thanks for joining me, Dominic.
Hello, mate. Very pleased to be here.
Good. And we've already talked about the COVID brain fog. So if you go off on a tangent,
I know.
We're ready for it.
I apologise in advance for any slurring or just...
I promise I'm not drunk.
Yeah.
Friday morning. So talk to me about the NewsPage journey and kind of where it is now and why it was kind of built.
Yeah. So we NewsPage. So I was a journalist many moons ago. I've got another traditional PR agency, which is still operating. I don't have anything to do with it these days. So I've had a background in journalism and PR. And during COVID, during the first lockdown, I suddenly had a lot of time on my hands. And I thought, there are so many businesses that are getting absolutely shafted right now. I wanted to I had a lot of time, just thought I want to get some of these experiences and, how brutal it was, get it into the news and do it for free. So that's kind of, because, businesses, so many small businesses were going under. We just wanted to give them a platform to have their story told. So that's effectively where the idea for NewsPage came. It was, cobbled together on a Squarespace sort of website initially. But what we did is we allowed people to add their stories, and then subject to those, the quality of those stories, we just sent them to the media for free, and we got a huge amount of, traction, because these were all, small businesses who couldn't ever afford a PR agency, to tell their story. So we were taking, beauticians and butchers and, just everyday regular businesses that were really in a shit place, and just enabling them, to appear in the Times. This is what COVID's done to my business, or the Telegraph, or Financial Times. And that's kind of, and I think what we found, and this is where I suddenly started thinking, this is actually a business, is that when you do something for free or for a very low cost, people share the arse of it online on social media, because they value what you're doing, and and it's just very rewarding to take a business that would never be able to spend 5 or 10 grand a month on PR and, put them alongside a business who is in the Financial Times. So, and I've always, you carry on.
No, sorry, carry on. I was going to ask how it went down that broker route, because I know you've got a massive broker following.
Well, I think the broker thing sort of just happened organically. It's, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, it's peculiar. I used to be an investment journalist, so I know finance and property and mortgages. I PR'd lots of mortgage brands. So Andrew Montlake of Corico, I actually turned him into the media tart he is today. So I've got lots of experience on.
He's from PR and marketing as well, isn't he?
Yeah. So I think, in those early days, because of my connections, and I had lots of, I knew a fair amount of brokers, I don't know, and mortgages are a very fluid news space. So it sort of just evolved that stories were breaking all the time in the mortgage world, about rates doing this, that, and the other, and property, the property market is an evergreen in the media. So I don't know why, but suddenly we started getting a lot of mortgage brokers, and we thought, we're just going to. And we actually have, as I've said, businesses across every sector, but mortgage brokers are, by far our biggest sector. And I don't know why they're all
relevant to the last year as well, right? There's just literally news every day. That's always something happening.
Yeah, it just sort of happened, and we started off. Maybe we had 20 or 30 brokers to start off with, and we were getting them into the news, and then it became a few hundred, and then it's over 1,000, and so on and so forth. And now, we're at the point where we've got so many brokers now that we're sort of able to generate stories, because we've created this thing called a news desk, where we have a WhatsApp group, of 50 or 60 brokers who are feeding us stories as they break from the coalface. And this is proving quite sort of, I hate the word disruptive, but it's giving the media
You are allowed to be
stories.
disruptive. I know you said this before, not liking the word, but it is disruptive for
Yeah,
what you're doing.
I don't know. Yeah,
You're taking the journalist job
I mean,
and
I've PR'd so many businesses who are disruptive, who are just
disruptive.
basically doing nothing disruptive at all. But
This
so
is
I'm
a
very,
genuinely disruptive business. You're allowed to call it that.
yeah, well, yeah. So but it's very, you've got a very fluid news cycle. Stories are always breaking. Brokers seem to be very vocal. They really have a view, and that's fantastic. It's media gold. We have so many brokers who just say it as it is. A corporate broker will always toe the line. There might be some politics. They've got
Get it signed
investors.
off.
Get it signed off, all of that. Our lot are just like a bunch of rabid orcs, as I describe them, and they just say it as it is. The journalists love it because it's like, wow, get off the
And it's
fence, mate.
relative to the readers, right? These are people who are living it day to day, rather
Yeah,
than you. I
yeah,
think
and
we talked about this before about having economists, talk about
yeah,
mortgage rates. We did this so vague.
it just gets on my nerves phenomenally. I mean, it's why yesterday you've got Hargreaves Lansdown, a quote, someone from Hargreaves Lansdown being quoted in a property story, the Halifax house price story. Why is that happening?
Yeah.
As far as I'm aware, why not quote an estate agent in Luton or a
Yeah.
mortgage broker in Derby?
Why is that? Do you
Someone.
think it's just because journalism's always
Well,
been like that? Right? You've always had your sources. You always go to.
there's a lot of relationships. I mean, a lot of these spokespeople in these big corporates are ex-journalists themselves. So
Right.
that sort of, so they know the journalists who are writing the stories. So there is a clique going on,
Yeah.
and often it's just, they're under pressure. Journalists are under a lot of pressure these days. I mean, headcount's been cut, so they're having to churn out stories at a
Yeah.
ridiculous rate. And, they'll often
They
default.
use
And,
like the Hargreaves Lansdown because people know the
but they,
business. They don't really,
yeah,
like
but
the reader doesn't understand that guy doesn't really understand that business, but they know their
yeah.
company is a credible business.
Yeah. So, but look, these big corporates have people who are doing this day in, day out. Their job is just to get, basically comment on every story going, even if it's not particularly relevant to them. And, that's how it rolls. But, we've come in and said, what, we want to level the playing field and give everyone, and every broker the
Yeah.
chance to be in the story. If it's a story that relates to mortgages, that's
I
how
do
it
think
should be.
that's incredible as well that you've got one-man bands that have got a voice in national
Yeah, I
press.
mean, one of our biggest success stories, and God, I can't believe I'm actually referencing him, is Riz Malik. So he joined us in, I think,
Opinionated guy, right?
early September last year, and I think 2 weeks after joining us, we had him on Sky News, and he called for the Chancellor, Kwasi Kwarteng, to resign live on Sky News, and he did actually about 2 days later. But and since
To be
then,
fair, I
Riz
don't
has
think you needed a crystal ball for that one. That was
no,
a,
no.
that was a tough gig for him.
And Riz had never been in, I don't even think he'd been in his local newspaper before. And then suddenly he was
Wow.
in like the Telegraph, the Daily Mail, he was on Sky News. And he's, since, yesterday, I think he was on, he got hundreds of hits yesterday on the back of the Halifax. So it's just.
Do you hear this side of things? Do you hear like the tangible kind of return on investment that brokers are getting from getting out there?
Yeah,
Do they
we
give
get.
you their kind of success stories from it?
Yeah, we've had lots of brokers message me on LinkedIn saying, I've had deals on the back of that, being in this story. I've had someone phone me up directly and say, I read you, I saw your comments in the whatever paper and da 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 da. So we get that fairly regularly. I mean, I never say that PR shouldn't be looked at as a,
No, no,
direct,
it's
as a
hard to
lead
give the ROI,
generator.
isn't it? But yeah,
It's more about, look, PR ultimately is about credibility and trust. It's like if somebody is Googling you, if you're tapping Riz Malik, R3 Mortgages, and Riz Malik comes up on the BBC and, in the Telegraph and the Daily Mail, you immediately think, this guy knows what he's on about, what he's on
also
about. And
credibility is part of our lead generation strategy. As most people
yeah,
don't want to say it, but
exactly.
it is being trusted partner is and being out there and social proof is part of that, right?
Yeah, exactly. So, that's what, but it does, you pick up the other benefits of NewsPage are, you get the exposure, you often pick up backlinks along the way. whether they're do follow or no follow, but you do pick up backlinks. Some of our users have backlinks from national newspaper websites. They're still quite rare these days, but it does happen from time to time. So it's really about credibility, trust, and I think, a lot of our brokers said that, getting into the local media is far more important, often than getting into the Times or the FT, because actually being on your local radio station or in the Gloucester Citizen, if you're a Gloucester mortgage broker, is far more, likely to result in the phone ringing, which is ultimately what everyone wants. So
that's the interesting thing. So I talk to brokers on here who have massive followings on Twitter and Facebook and obviously LinkedIn, and they smash social media and same as this. And it's interesting to talk about, like, it's a genuine return on investment in the sense that you do get more business out of it. It's not just a dick swinging, I got my name out there. Like, it's an important part of growing a business.
Yeah, we encourage people to put, on their homepage of their websites, as featured in, and, the Times, the Telegraph. Now, you don't necessarily want to use their logos for copyright reasons, but, you can link to that coverage on your homepage. And, it just, when someone comes to your site for the first time, they can see that you've been in the major media outlets. It does create a degree of trust. So, we encourage that.
Good. And so for brokers that have looked at it or sort of played with it and they're not really got down to it, because this is, I liken it to social media in the sense that everyone knows they need to do it, and then some people, maybe it's not, they don't know how to. If you aren't as opinionated as some of maybe the bigger voices in it, but you want to get it out there. I mean, how do people start? What would you recommend is the first thing to?
Well, the first thing is not be disillusioned, or if you don't get media coverage the first time you use NewsPage, don't suddenly think it doesn't work. I think we get some people who expect, they've seen the coverage generates, they do it once or twice, and they don't get. We can't guarantee that you're going to get through, each time, but the more you do it, you will get picked up by the media, and the more you get picked up, the more chance that a journalist will use you in the future as well. So it's just a case of, get in, start responding to news alerts. The more you do it, the greater your chances of getting into the FT. So we've had some users that have joined us, and the day after, or even the day that they've signed up to NewsPage, they've been in the Financial Times, and they've just hit it out of the park. Other times it can be 5 or 6 news alert responses before you actually get something. So it's it's totally.
People don't have to be proficient in kind of editorials or articles.
No, so we if you're a free user, we don't edit your responses. If you're a premium user, and that's £50 a month, think that, we're all experienced journalists, so we will take what you've written and edit it. Basically improve the way it's written to sort of make it more impactful. We understand what journalists like and what they don't like, and so we will edit it on the house to make sure it's grammatically tight and so and that does, most of, a lot of brokers are on premium, because it just means that, even if you're in a rush and you've written a load of drivel, we will sort of go into that and, and turn it into a piece of art that the media salivate over. So
good. And do you know what? When you think of the things we spend money on in marketing to try and get a hit or trying to get your name out there, £50 a month. I'm not just saying this because you're on here. It's next to nothing for potentially you'd have a £50 bet on getting your name into the FT. Do you know what I mean? I just think it's.
Well, yeah. I mean, look, lots of PR agencies charge. A typical retainer is $3,000 to $5,000 to $10,000 a month. For PR. If you go to a traditional PR agency, so for most firms, it's just not possible, unless you do it yourself. But then most people don't understand how the media work and how to get through to journalists.
I said this to you before.
Yeah.
I would love to be in the trade press more, and I've got opinions on it, and I love talking about the recruitment and the benchmarking of the industry. Without speaking to someone like yourself, I have no idea, and it's probably for most brokers, I have absolutely no idea who I would even need to speak to get.
No, exactly. So, I mean, exactly that. And that's why we set up NewsPage, to effectively give people an easy way to get into the news. Even if you've got zero understanding of the media, you don't need that on NewsPage. You can create a news page. If you respond to a news alert, for example, with an interesting some interesting insights, there's a very good chance that they're going to get into the media, and that could be a national newspaper, it could be a trade title like The Intermediary, or it could be a local newspaper based on where you are. So because obviously each time that somebody, if you're based in Derby and you respond to a news alert about the Halifax House Price Index or the Bank of England mortgage approvals data, your comment doesn't just go to the national newspapers and the trades, it also goes to the local Derbyshire media.
Right, and you fire that off everywhere. That's done in the background. It's not like guys.
That's all done. Yeah, that's all. We do all of that. So basically, where you're based determines where your quote goes in terms of the regional media. So we get a hell of a lot of regional media coverage as well.
And how do you see that? Because obviously the market is dying down. That doesn't mean news dies down. How do you see it panning out next year for kind of that broker community and moving into 2024?
I mean, I don't know. I mean, the feeling on the ground, I mean, I'm no expert, but, brokers seem to be pretty upbeat at the moment. I mean, things, rates have been coming down for 2 or 3 months now. Buyers seem to be, the Halifax and nationwide house price indices have both said that, prices have risen, marginally over the past 2 months. So things seem to be picking up a little bit.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Most news for you, because obviously not a fear factor, but brokers have been in the forefront this year because it's been a tough year, and the banks have been dicks. So it's been really easy you needed a broker, right? So when it gets easier, do you think, is there going to be as much news for them, or do you think there's just other news? There's always something that you could be giving your opinion on?
Well, I think, it's such a fluid space. We're obsessed as a nation with property, ergo, mortgages. So it will always be a story, property, house price stories, mortgage lending. That's in the news day in, day out. So, it's a very fluid space. And whatever, even if things improve, journalists will still be writing about it. So, it's never ending, really. Yeah. That's why it's such a great sector. As a broker, there's a lot of brokers will think, how do I get into the news? And really, that's all you've got to do to get into the news is read the damn news, because actually every day is about stuff that relates to what you do. Yeah. We call it, it's called like, a PR agency would call it newsjacking, where you're effectively hijacking the news cycle. And that's what kind of NewsPage does. When stories break, we seek comment from our users, our brokers, and we then send them out to journalists who are writing up stories on that data that has broke, and we,
And out of interest, journalists, obviously, how do I word that right? Journalists are buying into it, right? Because even though it's taking a big part of what they do away, are they just getting used to that? Is that just the new norm with the social media and people being on the ground already before journalists, that kind of thing? Is it just something that they kind of...
Yeah, we have lots of journalists using NewsPage to create news alerts. So, you'll have journalists from the Times, the Telegraph, the Evening Standard, the Daily Express, various other places, just creating their own news alert saying, look, I'm writing a piece on, I don't know, equity release, can you, and they'll target equity release brokers, So journalists use it. We've got several hundred at the moment, journalists using it.
I suppose for them as well,
but for them, it's most of the journalists that use it, love it, because it's just, you can create one alert and then responses will keep appearing in real time every time you refresh the URLs. So it's kind of like all that you need to write a story is just appearing in one place. So I think, lots of journalists like it for that fact. And, and they can choose whatever quotes they feel they, are the strongest. So.
And I'm interested, this is kind of on a personal one, I'm thinking of it, but how do you think that, with the AI being able to write pieces for people and that kind of thing at the moment, how do you think that affects journalism? The articles, the pieces, that kind of thing. Is it obvious for you to spot now? Because I think I see it.
I can smell AI. I can smell AI from a mile away, but it's going to become more sophisticated. So, but I think look, this is a massive debate at the moment in the media. AI is a real threat to journalism. If you look at a lot, major news publishers, they're in a pretty difficult place right now, because you've got AI, which can effectively write to, it can produce half decent editorial. I mean, look, No one's going to run a splash on the front page of a paper that's purely written by AI without. But it's a big growing phenomenon, and it's putting even more pressure on the media. So it's going to be an interesting 2 to 3 years.
The benefit with somewhere like NewsPage, where you're getting, I mean, I suppose it's different for me because I know a lot of the brokers that are doing it, right? So I can see it's in their voice. But I do think that is the one benefit, is that you can't really, the opinion stuff, the source stuff where you're getting someone's opinion, I don't think that's replicated as well. I think they're blindingly obvious when they are.
Yeah, no, exactly. So, I mean, look, we've had, I know that some of our users use ChatGPT to help them write their, so what they'll do is they'll, write it down and put it in the ChatGPT 4 and try and improve it. But, I tend to, I'll recognize if it's done. But look, that's fine to an extent. We will over time, we're launching a mobile app in Q1 and we are going to, embed ChatGPT into it. But that, look, if you've got to use your own. The key is that you're using your own human intelligence, and the AI is
like, when someone gets writer's block and it's just the start point, right?
But then that's dross, and no journalist will, journalists will see through that. And if it's saying nothing material, you have to be a human being to take a strong position on something. AI isn't going to do that. So unless you probably prompt it to, but, so it's all about, we give a platform where people can give strong views and, if they want to use ChatGPT just to polish their responses and make them a bit stronger, that's fine.
So it's more of an add-on than changing the game.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's everyone's got a view and, otherwise we'd have 100 news alert responses. They'd all be the same if everyone was using.
That's what
we know
is that genericness of it. Like I said, I can see it with with the people that work with them, but that's because I know them and I see them online and I know it's genuine. That concern about AI and ChatGPT is that it just becomes generic shit.
Yeah. I mean, we get a fair few expletives on our news alert responses. But we know that it's definitely not ChatGPT. But it's kind of So I think ChatGPT. Look, for us, I think it's going to be huge in the next 2 to 3 years. I think there are going to be a lot of casualties, and we just focus on giving. Filtering real human insight from the engine room of the economy. For me, that's the future of news, is that, for too long, the news media have been top down. They tell us what's news. Whereas what we what social media has shown is that actually, let people dictate what's news. That's how, that's why there's, Twitter and X, which is how it should be. So we're kind of saying to brokers, look, you're the experts. You tell, the media what they should be writing about in terms
speaking
of
to the clients every day as well, aren't they? Like a journalist isn't speaking to the guy buying the mortgage every day, so they actually don't know what is the interesting article because this is the same pain point 10 times today. I need to tell you that.
And we enable now, so we have 50 odd brokers on our mortgage news desk, and if they see something that they think's interesting, they can create a news alert on it themselves. That can then get validated by other users, so other brokers will come in and go, yeah, I'm seeing that too. And then suddenly it's a story on a plate because it's this is all bottom up intel coming from the ground up. And that's it's something that is affecting consumers. Brokers are aware that it's affecting consumers, and therefore the media should be writing about it because it's been identified as a story by experts, not people who are, sat behind desks in the city. So
amazing. And talk to me. I know I kept you for longer than I said it, but talk to me about the mobile app. What's happening with that?
So the mobile apps. Hopefully, it's going to be live in Q1. That hopefully is going to be pretty groundbreaking for us. It's going to be far more robust. So to start off with, a lot of users respond to news alerts on the go, on their phones, on the train, or wherever they are. So the mobile environment will make that more robust. You'll also, importantly, be able to respond via video. So if you want to, just give a video response to a news alert, you can do that. And then effectively the journalist at the other end of the chain can effectively just embed that video into their story. So we're going to be allowing people to respond to news alerts by video, by audio, which will then just turn that automatically into text. So it'll be a much richer environment. And also the other key thing is that it's going to be a dynamic feed where effectively we're asking people in every sector. So the mortgage brokers will be dropped into a mortgage news desk, and we're asking them to pitch stories to that desk throughout the day. So if they think, I think this is something the media should write about, they can basically add that to the mobile app as like, I think this is a story. If a select number of other brokers say, yeah, I agree, I think that is a good story, it does need to be written about, that will then turn into a news alert via the app. Other brokers can then respond, and it gets sent to the media as a story on a plate that's been identified as a story by people who know what they're on about.
And obviously, I think the video is a game changer as well, because that's how we consume so much news.
Yeah. I mean, look, here we are, and it's kind of, I mean, I love some of the brokers, some of what they do on TikTok and Instagram is just brilliant. That's how people want to consume these days. You've got middle-aged old fart brokers. I'm not going to name their names, but they're hilarious, just doing the most wacky TikTok videos.
One of the guys who I spoke to about the TikTok kind of revolution in broking, he feeds he's feeding himself and 5 other brokers leads through his TikTok channel, which is incredible, right? Because he's still giving the same information away. He's doing it in a funny way that people can connect with outside of mortgages.
Yeah, it's brilliant. I mean, that's the feature. It's, the media's got to move from, and it is moving from, just text, because my kids, they're both 17, they're not going to read an article these days. They're going to open up their, TikTok, or they want video. They just want it in
30 seconds as well, don't they? They don't want to read.
They want it in 30 seconds max. They want a guy with a wig like Daryl Dofer of the Mortgage Expert. They just want batshit crazy stuff, and because it's sort of entertaining.
Right? We're still adding.
It's
value.
all the raw, exactly.
It's like it's
but it's just being human. Yeah, without the formality, and so that's kind of it. And they're getting it from people who really know what they're on about, as opposed to corporate spokespeople who may have never sold a mortgage in their life. So
amazing. Good. That all makes sense. So for people who don't know about you or want to get involved in it, how can they get hold of you? Obviously, all of your socials, etc., will be on the podcast and on YouTube, etc. But how can they get hold of you just to kind of discuss it? If anyone's got any questions or just wants to get
I mean, just connect with me on LinkedIn, or just create a news page, and our paths will cross. And what we do tend to do, it's worth saying, is when you're new to NewsPage, we look after our new brokers. So when people come on, we will we've got ways of means of getting them into the media to sort of give them an initial lift. So just get onto NewsPage, create a news page, add areas of expertise, specifically mortgages, house prices, things like that, so that you're getting news alerts that are relevant to your area of expertise. And then just watch the coverage start coming in.
And like you said before, just be consistently. You can't just do it once and forget about
it. Don't. Yeah, I mean, look, some people are really busy, and sometimes we have users who, a broker might not use us for a month, and but that's because often they're busy, and but then they come back and boom, they're in the Times or the Telegraph. So it's kind of, people use it. Some people respond to literally every alert within 2 minutes. Others respond to one maybe 3 or 4 times a month. So it's kind of for everyone, and it can be free forever, because we really believe that everybody
stories grammatically,
or you pay or if you pay 50 quid, it just means that you can respond to unlimited news alerts, and also you can be reassured that an editor, an experienced journalist, is going to be reviewing your copy and making it as strong as possible before it goes across. So so look, the more the merrier. I mean, it's so I mean, I can't believe I'm saying this, but I actually thoroughly enjoy working with mortgage brokers. They're quite hilarious, and they're very
hidden behind those grey suits of old is actually a really good bunch of people who are trying to do the right thing. So no,
exactly, and that comes through. So so it's good fun, and
Good. Thank you very much, Dominic. I really appreciate your time today. Cheers for this. I will.
No worries, mate.
I appreciate your time. And as Dominic said, if you want to get hold of him or discuss anything NewsPage, by all means, come to me and I can direct you in the right direction. But all of Dominic's socials will be on all of the relative platforms. And I'll speak to you soon, Dominic. Thank you very much.
Great. Thank you, mate. Cheers. Bye. Bye-bye.